What's up, everybody? I'm Gio, and welcome back to Carvalho Creations, where I show you how to make awesome props and projects of your own. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the process of how I turn some PVC pipe, pool noodle, a little bit of burlap, and some scrap wood into this wicked-looking scarecrow. Now, if you guys are doing a farmhouse theme this year, or maybe you're doing a haunted hayride, you're definitely going to need one of these. And as far as Halloween projects go, this is definitely one of the easier builds, so you'll be able to get it done in one weekend, and look how cool this came out. So if you guys want to see how I do it this week, stick around, because we're about to go wild. Okay, everyone, so today we're making a scarecrow, and now I want to go over the material list so you guys know what you're going to need to get this guy going. So first and foremost, you're going to need wood. I have a 8-foot piece of 2x4 you're going to need, and then we're also going to be using some of this scrap, just 1x6. It's fence wood, and that's to make the cross beam that goes over the top so the arms can sit for the scarecrow. And you're going to be needing styrofoam head, just a little bit of foam clay, and the reason I'm saying that is because I'm not going to do a full sculpture on this guy. We're going to cover him with burlap like a normal scarecrow, but I do want to accentuate some of the eyes and stuff like that. I'm also going to be using these little guys. They're just plastic eyes. We'll glue those in place and sculpt around them to create more of a grimace on his face, and then I'm going to also maybe open the mouth a little bit here and put some teeth, kind of the same way I did for the jackal character over here, where I used these bad boys as a mold to make teeth for this guy. And then we're going to have that cut open from the burlap. We'll put burlap over the top of this guy, but I just wanted to give him more of an ugly look, so he looks a little creepier. We're going to be needing some upholstery foam. We're going to be using some PVC pipe, some pool noodles. I have this stuff that I bought at the Dollar Tree because I couldn't find any hay. It's off season right now. It's still a little too early for Halloween things to be in the store, but I did find this, this Hawaiian luau kind of stuff. So we're going to use this as our hay. I'm using some old gloves for the hands, some old robe, old clothes. I'm going to keep this guy relatively lightweight though, because he's going to be so tall on that 8-foot piece of 2x4, and I want him hanging in that traditional scarecrow pose, but I want him to be super lightweight. Now I'm also going to be using a stake to help hold this into the ground. So I do have a stake here, so I'll be able to pound this into the ground and then strap the 2x4 to the stake itself, just to give a little more support. And if that doesn't work out too well, because like always, I'm usually making things for the first time and showing you at the same time, but if that doesn't hold the structure, I'll also make a little T-base that goes on the bottom to help with some of that weight distribution as well. Also too, I got some great stuff here because you never know what we're going to be needing this for, but it always comes in handy. Maybe I'll do a little rib cage type of deal with the pool noodles and maybe some great stuff. And then also you're going to be needing this glue all, and this is to get our burlap attached to the face itself. And then of course, I got burlap. Now, this was about 15 bucks at Home Depot, and this is a 3-foot by 24-foot roll. So I'll be able to use this for a lot of projects. So if you guys are like me and you like to do a bunch of Halloween projects, really super inexpensive, but it's going to give you a lot of character for this guy. So we got a lot going on here. So why don't we go ahead and go wild with it. Oh yeah, just another thing too. I do have cardboard here because I'm also going to be making a hat to sit on top of this, and I'll show you how to do that as well. You guys remember our ghoulish puppet I did not too long ago? That dude, I actually created the hat for that as well, and also our Monster Mud Witch. So this time I'm going to actually show you how I did it. So just an extra little bonus, but we better get going because we got a lot to do. All right, to start off today's build today, I'm measuring 14 inches down from the top of my 8-foot 2x4, and then I'm using my crossbar to go ahead and trace around it. I'm going to cut out a relief for that crossbar to sit into. Now, I have my depth of my saw set to about 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll take my chisel here and just break away all those little pieces of wood to create the relief so I can put my crossbar in there. I wanted this thing to be sturdy and really strong, so I'm going to be using wood glue to attach it with wood screws. Also, my crossbar is about 5 feet in length. Now, this is going to give me plenty of support for the arms, but it's also aesthetically going to look really nice. And then what I'm doing here is I'm going ahead and I cut out my 1x3s at about 21 inches just to create a little more aesthetic look to the crossbeam, so it looks more like a scarecrow perch. And then to prep my foam heads, I do a lot of these props, so to prep the heads, depending on the face that I'm going for, in this instance, I'm going ahead and carving out the area for the teeth to sit in there. And then I'm also going to be carving up the mouth a little bit too to create like this ugly, like smiling grimace face. And then I'm going to be taking some plastic eyes here and gluing them in place. Now these are a little small for the sculptures for a normal size human head, but they seem to be working pretty well, so I'm just going to continue to go with that. I'll leave a link to the eyes that I use down in the description below if you guys are curious. Now for today's sculpt too, this is a really quick sculpt. I just wanted to accentuate the features around the eyes and the mouth and then point the jaw a little bit more. Now this is foam clay that I'm using here, so this stuff is going to dry, but I want to make sure that I spray it with a polyurethane when I'm done to make sure it's all nice and sealed so the weather doesn't get to it as much. Now I'm going to go ahead and take just a regular black paint so I can create a nice foundation to work with before I start spraying on my color. And because this guy is going to be mostly covered, I'm not too worried about a tremendous amount of detail. You're only going to see really the eyes and the mouth through the burlap that we put on there, but I still wanted to give just a little bit of effort. It's going to be a high contrast as far as colors piece. That way it stands out in that low light. And here I'm just taking a little bit of brown. And when it comes to airbrushing, this might be a project you want to start with because it's easy and it's not going to be seen completely. So if you make some mistakes, you can kind of get away with it here. But I'm just going in and darkening up the mouth, any of the recessed areas in the nose and the eyes as well, just to pop out all of that work that we already did here. Now I'm taking a white color to highlight the teeth and then also any areas that I think light would reflect the best off of it. And then I felt like this guy needed a little bit of color, so I'm just taking a liner brush here and brushing in some color around the mouth. Now these kind of sculpts, I love doing these. They're super easy actually. I mean, the sculpture itself probably took me 15-20 minutes max, and then the paint job, only because I had to mix the colors and clean out my brush and go back and forth, maybe half an hour. Really easy, but when it comes down to creating these characters, you want to be layering as much color on as possible to really make them come to life. And as a last step here, after I do the teeth, I take some watered down acrylic paint and brush it into the eyeballs here to create that red look, that irritated look, and then I'm just dabbing away at the pupils so you can still see that color. Now to start with the burlap, I'm just taking a little section here and tracing around the lampshade so I can create that circular pattern that goes around the neck and over the shoulders on most scarecrows. And then I'm taking the rest of it and just cutting it into small strips so I can start to glue that on top of the face. Now here's the glue all. Now in hindsight, I probably wouldn't even do this step. You don't really need it. But here I'm just watering down some of that glue all. I'm going to brush it over the burlap. But I found it to be a lot easier just to take the hot glue gun here and just in spots, glue that burlap directly to the head. I feel like it's a more permanent bond than the actual glue wall is, but I had never done one of these in the past, so I wanted to try it out and see if it worked for me. Now, if I was going to do it again and I wanted to use the glue wall, I'd probably go ahead and saturate the burlap in some water and get it nice and damp, wring it out and get it nice and damp before I put it over the sculpture, so it kind of adhere to the curvature of the face a little bit. But honestly, this hot glue worked out great for me. And here I'm taking some of that Hawaiian luau grass skirt stuff and just gluing it on the head. Now when you're making these characters, you want to go ahead and give as much layering as possible to really bring them to life. And now we're going to start with the hat. And I just took that same lampshade, I traced a circle around, and I'll be taking a gallon bucket and doing the same for the centerpiece of the hat, and then taking another strip of cardboard, you'll see me cut here in a second, and wrapping that around for the top of the hat. Now this is a really easy way to create this. You can cover this with monster mud, like a little bit of material dipped in monster mud if you want to weatherproof this completely. But I wanted this to remain relatively light because it's going to be sitting up there and we're going to have a pool noodle and PVC body. So I didn't want any extra weight on top of the head. And here I'm just gluing down the top of the hat to the brim of the hat. And then I'll create a little cap. And once all that dried, I didn't show it here on camera, but I just crushed down the top of the hat to give it that really worn look. I wanted this to feel like an outdoor sun hat that just got worn and they threw it on the scarecrow in the field there. Now to create more color, taking a black base coat of spray paint, and then I'll be going over it with a brown color to give it that leathered look. And then over the top of that, we're going to be using some Loctite spray adhesive
to attach our burlap strips over the hat itself. Now again, I did this purposely. I made it really haphazard, so all the edges look torn and tattered, like it's been sitting out. You want it to look weathered. That's what really sells the Scarecrow look. And then I'll put another strip around the top of the hat as well once this is done, just to create a thicker looking hat itself. And then as an added little feature, I'll be wrapping another piece of material around the brim of the hat here. But let me stop talking so my other self can start talking.
All right, so now that we're done with the crossbar and our head of our Scarecrow today, I want to go ahead and start working on the body. Now, I thought about a lot about this, and I was thinking, I want this guy to be rigid enough to be able to support the head and look good on that cross, but I also want him to be light enough so when he's standing up there, it's not too heavy, it's not blowing around, and it's not going to teeter as much. So what I'm going to be doing for the body is creating out of PVC and pool noodle. Now, I'll be using the PVC for the spine of the character so I can attach the head to it, and for the shoulders as well, but I think I'll do the rest of the torso and the arms made from pool noodles, so they're very lightweight, they're posable, and I'll probably attach them together using some wire just to hold it in place. Now this guy is gonna be, I'm not done with his face yet. I'm definitely gonna add some more color to him. I think the hat also, I wanna add more brown to it to give it more contrast so it's not all burlap, but we're gonna get on to the next step and working on that body. So let's get going.
All right, so for the pool noodle body, what I'm going to be using is just pool noodles and a heat gun to attach everything together. So I cut the initial pieces at 18 inches in length for the shoulder width, and then these little middle sections I cut about 4 inches. Now, if you have never used a heat bond to create bodies like this, I recommend taking some scrap pool noodle and trying it out yourself, because there's a little bit of a technique to it. The most important thing is you gotta watch that heat so you don't burn yourself for sure. But also too, you want to make sure you heat up both sides of what you're going to be attaching to each other and immediately press them together once they turn into like a greasy color or greasy consistency almost. But you want to make sure you squeeze them together right away to create that bond. If you let it cool for more than a second, it won't bond for you. So it takes a little bit getting used to, but it works out really well. And once it's bonded, it's really a great connection. So here I'm just creating more of a rib cage, more like a stomach area, torso to fill it out. So when the clothes go over the top of this, it really looks believable. And it actually really looks great. It's super lightweight and strong. That's what I was going for here. So to create this character and hang him up on the cross, I just took a little length of PVC. This is 1/2 inch PVC. I made sure to fit it in the pool noodle body and make sure the jacket and everything was on top. So when I screwed it down to the wood, I didn't have to mess with the clothing along the back. It already was hanging and looked natural. So again, I'm just screwing this down here, and then I'll be attaching the head just right over that PVC pipe. And then I just duct tape the actual PVC body to, the pool noodle body to the PVC. And then for the arms, I used a piece of pool noodle. I went ahead and notched out where the elbow would be so it would bend naturally, and then just heat bonded that directly to the torso itself. Right here, I'm using my heat gun just to bend that PVC a little bit. I want the head kind of leaning forward. And then I use some cool water just to cool it down right away to hold that pose. And then here, to add a little more material for the shirt, I'm gluing it directly to the head itself to help hold the head in place, but also to make everything nice and covered so you can't see any of the pool noodle underneath. And then I'll also be hot gluing the jacket over the top. And hot glue works perfectly for bonding clothing together. I've used this a lot of times because I don't sew. So when it comes to costume work, I've just used hot glue. Now it's not as nice, but when it comes to prop work like this, it's really a very easy way to get that look going. Now for the gloves here, I just use old work gloves. I ended up using some upholstery batting to fill the hands in so they didn't look flat. And then I just glued that right to the pool noodle and then glued the sleeve over top of the glove. And then to position the arms, I just hung them over the top and then hot glued that onto the wood as well. And here, again, I can't stress enough, when it comes to prop work, to make things look really believable and authentic, you want to go ahead and do a lot of layering. So I cut strips of burlap over the jacket, make sure they were extra long so they can double as like a trench coat. I didn't put legs on this character, didn't really need it. This is really something that can be sold easily just through the techniques I'm showing you here. And then just as a last bit to add a little more character, I'm taking strips of that grass skirt and gluing it on the wrists and under the collar. but this guy's pretty much done. It's a really easy build. You can get it done in one weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. Until next time, happy hunting.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed our Scarecrow tutorial. You know, this is the first time I actually made a Scarecrow in all these years that I've been making Halloween props, and I had so much fun doing it. It's a lot easier than you may think, so I hope you guys give this one a go. As always, if there's a character or creature you'd like to see me recreate in the future, or maybe you saw me use a technique today that you'd like me to elaborate on, please write me down in the comment section below and maybe I'll make a video on it. But until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to go wild. I'm Gio from Carvalho Creations, and I'll see you next time. What do you think, man? Yeah.